You're watching or listening to The Looking Forward Show on PhillyCam, WPPM LP, Philadelphia, 106.5 FM, or PhillyCam TV. You can also see us live streaming on Xfinity 66 and 966, on Bios TV 29 and 30, on Roku, Apple TV, and Facebook, as well as our YouTube channel. And now, here's your host, Jeffrey Abramowitz. And we are here. Welcome, everybody, to the Looking Forward Show, the first show of 2023. You're listening to and watching PhillyCam. You're on PhillyCam Radio, WPPM LP 106.5 FM. You're watching us on PhillyCam TV, live streaming on Xfinity 66, 966, on Bios TV 29 and 30, on Roku, Apple TV, and obviously, we are always on your favorite Looking Forward YouTube channel. So welcome, everybody. We have Jacques King coming in the studio now. We'll give him a second to get started, but I want to welcome everybody to 2023. Hey, Jacques, take your time, relax. And we are the first show of 2023. We are in the process now of doing some great things this year. And as always, we have a tremendous show today. We have a great guest. We are blessed with Maria Gellner from FAM, and she's going to tell you what FAM does and how awesome they are. And I've been this FAM fan for quite a number of years. But Maria is the deputy policy director of FAM, and our show is all about advocacy today. And we are going to be talking about the importance of advocacy in everything that we do, from just our daily living activities and working in the community, and then really making change happen, because that's what really advocacy is. It's kind of making change happen. So my friend Jacques King is in the house. How are you, bud?
I'm good. How are you today, Jeff?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. How was your holiday?
And my holiday was great. I was, I actually, I started a new job.
Yes.
So for those that are out there, I'm the new, I work for the PD Green program, and PD Green is an amazing program that works doing educational support inside of correctional facilities across the country, as well as working with men and women as they come home. And it's my 5th week or 6th week in the job, and I'm loving it. So during
CEO position, correct?
It is a CEO position.
Yes, big CEO.
Yeah, it really is amazing. It's great to be in a position where you can number one, just learn every day. I just learning so much, but more importantly, just seeing a lot of the passion that I have, having an opportunity to get things into play, right? Make things happen. How are you?
Advocacy.
Yeah, what's going on in 2023? How was your new year?
My new year was quite peaceful. It was quite relaxing. I had some chance to recuperate and, relax my body and as well as my mind, and we're back in full effect.
I love it. So I'm not a huge New Year's Eve fan or New Year's resolution fan, nor a New Year's Eve fan. I kind of stay pretty quiet New Year's Eve, but New Year's resolutions, I think, are things that every time I've tried to keep one, just has not gotten real far. But I'm curious, do you have a New Year's resolution?
No, because, it's like, why? It's like the way I look at it is January 31st, there is no difference between January 31st and February 1st. So it's like, what's the difference between December 31st and January 1st? Yeah. Because that's the day, literally the day after. So it's like, if I want to say, hey, I want to drop 40 pounds by the new year, January 1st, I'm eating an ice cream sundae. It's like, I already failed.
Well, there you go. I know it. Too many people start steps, and then others swear by them. Other people say, if I have the resolution there, it's my target. Like, I can get to it. But I find that there's got to be other motivations.
See, I'm not one to make momentary goals.
Okay.
So it's like I plan for the long term, and I do whatever little steps I can make to get to the long-term goal. Instead of just saying, I want to do it right now. And then what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
Everything leads up to the bigger picture for me.
Awesome. Good stuff. We have we've been working behind the scenes over break, and since the last show, we've been working on revamping a lot of things, and they're in the works. They're going to be coming really soon. So we have a new opening, new exit, a whole bunch of new different things we're being incorporating in this show. And obviously, Ja, this is kind of his 3rd or 4th show with me, and we're looking for getting him up onto this board so he can run the show. I could sit back, kick my heels up, and watch him do his thing. Right?
Most definitely.
There you go. So really looking forward to it. We are talking advocacy. I'm just curious, when I say the word advocacy, what is it that strikes you?
A representative for whatever cause you believe in.
Okay.
You're going out of your way. You're waking up and you're going to sleep with the goal of accomplishing whatever it is you want to accomplish. So like for you what you do with PD Green is advocacy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, like from your perspective. So you're the younger, and I'm curious from your perspective, like when we talk about advocacy, do you think legislation, or do you think can be anything?
I think everything from like lawyers to literally your own mother.
I love
Because
it.
my mother has advocated for me in more ways than one.
Yeah.
My boss have advocated for me in more ways than one. So it's like I have advocates everywhere. And so it's like it depends on the situation. Sometimes you can also advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
self-representation. And so when I look at it, it's like I think it depends on the situation and depends on the cause.
So I don't disagree. I think advocacy is such a it's a big word.
Yeah.
Like there's so much. I was in a training today up at Rutgers, New Jersey, and they were talking about power and in relation to doing some advocacy work and training. And I was really struck by a lot of the discussion because it was about holding and having the power doesn't necessarily mean that you can effectuate change. And I wonder if maybe a better word is being a better advocate. Like if you're an advocate and you really are good at what you do, can you effectuate change better than somebody that yields all the power? And it's kind of an interesting discussion. We're going to get onto it with our guest today. Marie Geller is going to be on with us today, and she's going to be sharing her thoughts and the work they do, but in particular in Pennsylvania about advocacy. So we're really looking forward to getting onto the show. I will give a little bit of disclaimer that I was a little bit disappointed. I had a guest a few guests that were going to be on today, and I actually, within the last 48 hours, decided not to go with them. And I'll tell you why. So in Philadelphia, where our show is filmed and it's also recorded and aired, we have a mayoral race coming up, and there's a lot of candidates that have thrown their hat in the ring.
I have met a few.
Yeah, so a few of them have reached out, and we were going to bring them onto the show, and I thought, wow, well, wouldn't it just be much more fun if we brought them on all together so that they can each have their share of... So
Presidential debate live.
there you go. There you go. So we are going to, as one of our shows in the upcoming season, we're going to be reaching out to all the mayoral candidates and asking them to come and jump on and see if they'll be willing to share their philosophies and their view about legislation, and we can all be advocates. So we're going to learn how to do it today. She's going to kick us off and teach us all those great skills that she has. So we are going to take a quick break. You're here with Ja and Jeffrey Bromwitz, and this is the Looking Forward Show. We'll be right back. We are back at the Looking Forward Show, and again, you're listening to us on WPPM 106.5 FM and also on Philly Cam TV. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this because I want to bring her right on. Maria Gellner, how are you, Maria?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it's funny, a lot of people have, they're fans of like football players and hockey players and the 76ers and like all these, and I'm organizational. Like I go with the organization. I'm like a fan of organizations, and FAM has been a wonderful organization that I've been really excited about working with over the years because they're just so passionate about the work they do. And we're going to hear all about FAM, but before we even start, I got to tell you about Maria. So Maria is a public interest lawyer and advocate for equal justice. She's deputy Policy Director for FAM. You'll learn what that is today, and a nonpartisan criminal justice reform. That's a nonpartisan criminal justice reform organization. She's a graduate of Fordham and New York Law School, and she has held many positions, including sole assistant federal defender for the Western District of Pennsylvania. That's Erie, and also served as defense attorney in Florida's 20th Judicial District. She's worked in the Legal Aid Society in Queens, just before joining FAM, and we're grateful to have you, Maria, joining us. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and talk to everyone listening. And anyone listening can get in touch with me anytime. I'm really accessible. So
throughout the show, don't be embarrassed. I want you to shout, let them know exactly how they can reach you. So you can throw those in along the way, but we'll make sure we get them out and put them on the website as well, so everybody can check out FAM. But what is FAM? What does it stand for? And tell us about the organization.
Absolutely. So FAM, F-A-M-M, or actually it's the other way, F-A-M-M, I'm backward on the screen, originally stood for Families Against Mandatory Minimums. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan, meaning we work with everybody. And kind of the easiest way of saying that is, we will work with anybody who really wants in good faith to work on these issues. And I think that's a good place to be today. I think people are hungry for that. We are results oriented. We want to get things done. And I don't have time with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people incarcerated in this country to wait for every politician in the country to agree with me to get done with what we need to get done. I need to get it done now, and all of us do. So 30 years ago, FAM began in Washington, D.C., fighting against federal mandatory minimums. That's where we got the Families Against Mandatory Minimums. Our mission has since broadened significantly, which is why we now just go by the acronym FAM, F-A-M-M. Anyone can reach out to us at fam@fam.org. So very simple, FAMM@FAMM.org. And we're really now looking to a much broader, holistic, real shift in our sentencing system. And so right now, and folks know this who are listening, we have a system where the criminal justice system takes a picture of you, a snapshot on the day that you're sentenced, right? And then that snapshot stays frozen in time for however long your sentence is. And that may be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Unfortunately, in this country, and particularly in Pennsylvania, we have some of the highest rates of life without parole sentences in the world. In Pennsylvania, we have the second highest number of people serving life without parole, shorthanded as LWOP, in the entire country. And so that snapshot that's taken, that never changes, right? And this shouldn't be a big surprise that that's not how human beings work, right? I am not the same woman at 37 as the girl I was at 15. None of us are. I'm sure that neither of you are. And so it's really not a realistic way to sentence our fellow human beings. And so what we're doing at FAM is shifting to a system where we try to take a second look at people, and we come back and review their sentences as time goes on. And that's kind of the big picture.
Yeah, so let's go big picture for a second. So I love this. So I want to tell you what the problem I have with sentencing in general is that about 95% plus of all the cases in the United States are resolved through plea bargain, right? And, it's where you agree, you sit down, I'll agree to that, I'll take that sentence, you agree to it,
yes,
right?
It's been happening a lot in the world recently.
Yeah, it's all we do. We plea bargain cases, which makes sense because there's so many cases we can't try all of them. I get it. But here's the problem I have. The problem I have is this. When we've all seen this happen, I want you to think back of a time where either you or somebody that's gotten a speeding ticket. And you go in front of the court and the judge says, go talk to the prosecutor and work this out, right? And you go to talk to the prosecutor and you say, Mr. Prosecutor, look, I was whatever. I can't do this. I can't get any more points on my record. He says, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's plea down to just driving without your seatbelt on, so you won't get any points. You just pay the fine and everything is great, right? And you say, sure. And then you go up and stand in front of the judge, and the judge says, he says, Your Honor, we've reached an agreement. And, okay, well, wait a second. And you raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? Yeah, absolutely. And okay, what are you pleading guilty? Well, Your Honor, I plead guilty to and he lays out the question and the facts. Oh, you didn't have a seatbelt on, huh? And you say, yes, I'm driving without a seatbelt. That's what I'm guilty of. And then he hits the gavel down, and now two things have happened. Number one is you've stated facts that were not actually true because you did have your seatbelt on. You were just driving really fast. Yeah. And the second thing that happened is you've now perjured yourself in a court of law. And this happens all the time with plea bargaining because we plea bargain and we get people to accept sentencing and accept things, the reality of things on the record that they may not have actually done in reality and factually. And so I know that's really that's really out there and it's really high level. But how wrong am I for making that argument, or am I right? Am I on base? And is that really what happens from your perspective at FAM from a sentencing perspective?
Sure. So I don't think you're wrong in that assumption. We do not work around plea bargaining, but we do have a fantastic documentary that our film team made called The Vanishing Trial, and it's available on our website. You can watch it for free. It's a fantastic piece that I recommend, talking about how trials have gone down, 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 down. And so I think what you're saying is accurate. In the business, we call that a legal fiction. And so that happens all the time. And what we would also call it in the legal biz is people plead to daylight. And so in your situation, someone wasn't facing prison time, but in my decade of experience as a defense attorney all across this nation, people are constantly pleading out to things just to get out of prison because you're held, you're held pending that or trial, which can take a very long time. So that is outside of FAM's lane, I would say, but definitely check out the documentary. I don't think your analogy or story there is inaccurate. But I also want to make sure, we don't want to get lost in, fixing the minutia of that legal fiction. We want to look at it really big picture. And I think that's where, the second look and having this continuing review of people and treating people as evolving human beings who always have the opportunity for redemption, not saying they're always going to take it, right? FAM does not say that everybody should get released right now or tomorrow. That's not what we're about. What we do think is that everybody has the right to have a conversation about it, and everybody has the right to redemption.
Yeah, so I'm not a real big fan of the term second chances because I don't think that I first of all, I don't think a lot of people have first chances. And then I also think that sometimes it takes third or fourth or fifth chances for people to really understand the lessons that are being handed to them for them to move forward. So I think there's a lot of that in play. So what are the things that FAM does as advocates here in Pennsylvania and across the country? What's the kind of work that they do?
Sure. So real quick, Jeff, let me go back for a sec. How do you feel about the term second look, which is also used kind of interchangeably?
I like that a lot better.
Yeah, we use that as well. I have a great, some great slides that I can share with your audience about to show how that works. So in terms of what we do in Pennsylvania, FAM is national. We work a lot at the federal level. That was how I first heard of FAM while I was with the federal defenders, the judges, the defenders, all kinds of people really relied on FAM's materials. And that was how I first got to know them. And so a lot of work at the federal level, several target states, Pennsylvania being one of those. So it's pretty rare for FAM to have a state director, one-on-one for a state, which has been my role for Pennsylvania. The reason that is because the situation is so poor in Pennsylvania. Not only do we have some of the highest incarceration rates generally in the Northeast, but we also have this extremely significant population of people serving life without the possibility of parole sentences in PA, including for things like, among other charges, felony murder, second-degree homicide. And under that law, you could, Jeff, could not have killed anybody, not have intended to kill anybody, have willingly participated in a crime, but not intended to hurt anyone or actually hurt anyone. And you can still get life without the possibility of parole, the same as if you were the worst serial killer, right? So because of these laws that were really one size fits all across the board, we have this extremely high rate of people serving life. And so that is what most of our advocacy in Pennsylvania is centered around, This is not a small thing, right? These are very heavy, big lifts to change culturally, politically, legislatively. And so our work kind of looks at how can we do this? And we're looking at three primary things. The first being to end these automatic life without parole sentences, right? We're all about not having one size fits all sentences. And that's true whether you're talking about, a traffic ticket or something that's going to carry life without parole. Not saying people can't get harsh sentences. What we are saying is the sentence needs to fit the case and all the circumstances need to be individually weighed. And that does not happen with mandatory minimums. Life without parole is the biggest mandatory minimum. It's the biggest one we have in Pennsylvania. So the first one is trying to end that automatically. We're going to be doing a lot of work in this new legislative session that just started this month, folks. It's 2023 to 2024, brand new session, lots of new lawmakers. We're really going to try to roll back that life without parole, particularly around that felony murder statute, because it's a very rare, arcane, weird, bad law. So that needs to go. The second piece that we're working on in Pennsylvania is expanding commutation. So clemency, which covers pardons and commutation. Clemency is the umbrella word that covers both of those, a pardon or a commutation from prison, which would shorten your sentence. It has a lot of problems. Okay. It's got a lot of issues. It's not a perfect mechanism for people to apply to get out of prison, but it's very special because it's the only existing second look mechanism that we have in Pennsylvania. So Governor Wolf did a lot to expand clemency, again, covering pardons and commutation, but there's a lot more to be done, both within the incoming governor-elect. Will have a lot of power over that, along with the Lieutenant Governor, Austin Davis, incoming, and also legislatively, there's things that we need to do. So that's the other piece, because right now, commutation is the only chance for people and families, dealing with these life without parole sentences. And then the third piece that we're working on is really trying to create mechanisms for our loved ones who are in the most dire straits, which is often our oldest and our sickest folks in prison. And so we're looking at trying to beef up the medical release provision under Pennsylvania law, which is utterly broken, and everyone knows it and everyone agrees, and we need to change it. And then also geriatric. So saying, the Department of Corrections considers you geriatric by age 50 or 55 because prison ages you at 3 times the rate of being in free society. People go in with more health issues, often go in with more substance abuse issues. The care there is not the same. You don't get to pick your doctors. There's co-pays, all that stuff. And so we really need more mechanisms for people to apply, especially as they get old and sick. And coincidentally, that cohort is also, we know statistically, absolutely the lowest risk. People really do age out of crime, and it costs an absolute boatload to taxpayers to pay for incarceration.
Wow, so much to unpack there. We could spend a week talking about some of these things, but I will tell you one of the things that one of the hats that I wear on the Pennsylvania, I sit on the Pennsylvania Workforce Development Board, and I know, no surprise, we've passed 2 resolutions we've handed to Governor Wolf, and we're preparing another one for the incoming Governor Shapiro that actually triples the budget for our pardon, our Bureau of Pardons, because quite frankly, they're so understaffed and there's no way that they can even begin to touch all of the applications that get filed. And although they've made a lot of strides under Governor Wolf in making the process easier, and I was on the phone on an email the other day, yesterday actually, with Brandon Flood, our prior secretary, and we talked. We were going back and forth about an issue, but the challenge kind of is that there is so much work to be done that we have to fund it properly. We have to get the staff in place that can actually tackle some of those issues. And so I think pardons and expungements and commutations are one thing that are also often really difficult from an advocacy standpoint, because I think you often hear the argument, well, they did something wrong. They should be serving their time. Why should we let them out early? And I think we're going to talk about the elderly in a minute, but generally, what's the argument that we really, when we come to juvenile lifers, I think it's kind of obvious. Maybe they weren't mature enough. They didn't know. The law definitely on felony murder and those felony convictions is obvious that you're really you're putting somebody that did not commit a violent crime behind the walls, possibly for life, and which leads me to another point. I've met so many people over the last few years that have had remarkable stories to tell about being a juvenile lifer. One that sticks out in my head is someone that I'm become good friends with, who was actually sitting in the back of a car and just was in the wrong place, the wrong time, when someone in the front seat pulled a gun out and fired at somebody, and the shot struck someone and killed them. And because he was in the car, he was sentenced as a juvenile lifer. And those kinds of things, like I just have a hard time grappling with understanding how somebody like that, at the age of, I think he was a minor, how at that age he could serve a life sentence. Like, that's the rest of his life. As an advocate, what are the challenges that you have when you make some of these tough arguments, these arguments about that, you really are looking at both sides. You're looking at the victim, and you're also looking at the individual who's serving the time.
Absolutely. So I think FAM's strength, and I think there's a role for all kinds of advocates, right? I really believe that in my heart, and based on all of my collective life experience, that wherever folks are on the political spectrum or anything else or their tactic, I think there's a role for everybody. But the strength that we bring at FAM, being nonpartisan, is that we approach everybody with good faith and integrity, and assume that of anyone that we talk to, until proven otherwise. And so if I go and meet with the Office of the Victim Advocate in Pennsylvania, which we have many times, had fantastic, beautiful meetings with them, we get to a place, because we approach it with good faith and integrity, we can get to a place with, kind of surprising folks where we can find things that we agree on and ways to begin, to plant those seeds, to build those relationships. And so, we don't assume anything of anybody, but we try to always be open in that respect. So I would say some of the challenges are, proximity. One of the things we know is that, 50%, 1 in 2 adults in the US have experienced incarceration in their families. And so something I tell lawmakers all the time is, even if you're in a rural district in the middle of Pennsylvania, and you think, I'm not in Philadelphia, I'm not in Pittsburgh, I don't have people with this issue. Wrong. Those aren't even the districts in PA that have the highest per capita rates of incarceration. You do, but the shame and stigma keeps people from coming forward. So we try to do a couple things on our member family end, because most of our membership, although not all, is made up of family members of people who are incarcerated, and then a lot of people coming home. We try to help them find their voice so that they can use it, and start talking to their lawmakers, and start speaking to their colleagues, and start talking around the water cooler, and start to break down that shame and stigma to make them powerful advocates. On the lawmaker side, we try to bring them proximate as well. So in this last session, there was a rough election just a few months ago. Everyone's still recovering from the fallout of that. We knew that this was going to be, the last year or so, probably not a great cycle for criminal justice reform, because it was used as a pawn. So we looked and said, well, what could we do? We need to get decision makers and policymakers proximate to people. And so we launched a campaign called #VisitAPrison. You can go to visitaprison.org. It's gone so well. This is going to be, I think, a perennial campaign for FAM, where we challenged every lawmaker in not just Pennsylvania, but the country, to visit a prison in their jurisdiction, and not just get the official tour, although that is important, because they need to see a cell, they need to see a yard, they need to see an infirmary, but to sit down specifically with lifers. And when I have families with loved ones, at every prison around Pennsylvania, those lawmakers, we will hook them up with our families' loved ones, and then our families to go and sit down and have an hour and a half conversation, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we have had lawmakers of every political stripe, race, geography, everything come out of there crying, come out of there never forgetting this, going back again and again. I can't tell you that type of visit happens every time, but it happens a lot. And I can assure you that even when they don't completely change their mind, that proximity sticks with them. They remember meeting with David Lee at SCI Cole Township, who met with Senator Ryan Ament, the incoming majority whip of the Pennsylvania Senate, Republican. Great visit last year. He's running a program in SCI Cole Township that has a 300-person waiting list and is doing the kind of real rehabilitative deep work with men that needs to be done before they come home. So things like that, it's magic.
So I actually think I speak at that program that you're referring to in
Nice.
SCI Cole. Yeah. So it's interesting too, because I mentioned that I just started a job with the PD Green program. And the reason I took the job is because it works with young college students and brings them inside of prisons to show them the humanity of the men and women that are behind the walls and helping them get smarter so that when they come home, they got their next, they have their next step where they're going to be going to. It's incredible work you guys are doing. And is it ever frustrating? Like I can't, politics to me, because I've done some time away, I just get really frustrated at that. You mentioned earlier about your antsiness. Like you want things to happen fast. Like you got to keep going and you want to move fast and make change happen. And for some reason, politics in our country and in our state often seems like it's so slow. Like to make that change, it's like it seems like it takes like you're moving a mountain sometimes. And I'm wondering, how do you, as an advocate and somebody that is really dealing with some tough issues sometimes, how do you get over that premise that you're going to have to chip away, and it may not happen overnight?
So, I think your hopes get dashed pretty quick when you think you can, you think you can do it fast. And I think that we lose a lot of potential advocates, and people get burned out because of that, right? Because it doesn't happen in their first 6 months of furious work. And people think, if I just work hard enough, I'll work harder than everybody else, I can make this happen. When the reality is that for many of these issues, the work has actually been going on for generations to get us to the point that we're at now, if not longer than generations. And it's going to continue after all of us here on this show are gone. And so we do our part. We carry it as best we can. We keep it moving and we do chip away. And I will tell you, there have been times when, I wasn't willing, although I have had, family members who have been inside repeatedly, or loved ones, I should say, that, I thought I can't accept this tiny chip in this legislative reform because it's not doing enough, right? And then I talked to Mr. Lee at SCI Cole Township or somebody else or someone else that I'm supporting or I know or I love or a friend or whoever. And they say, Maria, we got nothing right now. I'm going to die here. You take what you can get and then we come back. Yeah. You keep going. And that more than anything, we need to hear that. And I think the human network that we have in the advocacy space is really what keeps us going. Every time I get discouraged, I meet someone new like you today, who I find about some amazing work that they're doing that I didn't even know about. And so it's hard to get discouraged when I come across people like that every single day.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm giving you both an opportunity because I think, Ja, as a young person that wants voice out there, that wants to be an advocate, we're going to ask Maria to give him some guidance in pushing some advocacy work that might be of interest to them in the justice space. So you're listening and watching the Looking Forward Show. We're going to be right back. We are back at the Looking Forward Show, and I'm going to pass it over to Ja. Go for it, bud. It's all yours.
Hello. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be talking to you.
I'm so happy to be talking to you. It's finally nice to meet you. So you advocate for all ages, correct?
We do. I mean, we do have a focus
Like,
on people serving life, so they're
yeah.
typically significantly older, but we do advocate for everybody. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any advice for the people who are around my age who are so quick to take plea deals, but yet they're setting themselves up for failure in the long run and they don't know it? Because recently I've seen like a lot of like plea deals get thrown out in like very known cases, and then like you read them and it's like, okay, you won't serve 5 years, but you have to serve like hundreds of months on probation and you can't leave the country for that. So it's like you're still setting yourself up in an imprisonment to some degree. So what is your advice for people my age who get caught up in that, in those
And
situations?
don't get caught up.
Don't
Start there.
don't get caught up, but it's like for those who are in that situation, what is your advice to them?
Absolutely. So I think my advice is honestly the same as I would if we were talking about, somebody who didn't have a live case and just wants to get hooked into the movement. The key is getting outside of yourself. So, and I feel like this is true in so many personal situations as well. This is like a little something I've learned in life, is that you don't know what you don't know, right? And we need other human beings to help us with the sometimes tiny perspective shifts that help broaden our minds to learn what we don't know. And so I would just say there is no one size fits all about you have a case, you should go to trial, you should take a plea deal. I mean, as a defense attorney, I can't tell you how many cases. I've had thousands and thousands of cases, and in many of them I would be sick trying to talk someone out of, don't give up this motion to suppress. We can win at trial. We can win this motion to suppress. And people are like, Maria, they're offering me like nothing, they're offering me time served. I got to take that. And then vice versa, where I'm like, oh no, I know you're going to get hammered. And someone insists on going to trial. You never know the outcome, right? And so I can't give legal advice. That is between someone and their family, themselves, and the legal professional. But the best piece of advice I can say is don't go through it alone, because what I think the criminal justice system is very good at is making us feel alone as we're going through it. You may or may not have a good attorney. You may or may not have good family support. You may or may not be embarrassed, ashamed, afraid to tell people about your charges, your job, your girlfriend, whatever. You got to swallow that, and you got to get help as soon as you can, and not just from your lawyer. You want to bring in your family. You want to bring in any of the elders in your life, or just, adults or people who may have life experience, that you don't have. You need to get outside of yourself, and that fear, shame, and stigma stops people from doing it. And then they don't realize that for like 10, 20 years, right? On a slight side note, there is some advocacy happening in Pennsylvania, not so much by FAM, but by other groups I can hook you up with, who are working on trying to end, the kind of never-ending probation and parole cycle that we put people on. So there's another way you can get involved.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. So just curious, and not that I'm judging the guys that you hang around with. Do you have friends that are on probation and parole right now?
Yeah, some of my coworkers, who I admire, they are currently on probation, or they're in the midst of court cases. So it's like when I hear their stories, it's like I can tell whether if they feel remorseful, whether if they feel suppressed, oppressed by the situation, because especially with people of color, with the system, they try to make us feel like we are alone and we are oppressed. And that's why a lot of people of color are so quick to do plea deals. And I want people to understand, as I don't have a record myself, I want you to understand that you should know the difference between, when you take in plea deals, know the difference between how they're treating you, because you can have a misdemeanor, but they're treating you like you did a federal crime.
Yeah. So you should know, Maria, that Ja and his family do work with the Mural Arts program here in Philadelphia, which is just a remarkable program. And often a lot of the individuals, almost all the individuals, and at least in some of the programs, are justice impacted and have gone through the justice system. If you were to, and I'm asking you the question, but I think Maria is going to be able to help us with this a little bit. You do a lot of work with Mural Arts and some of those programs, and I'm curious, like, don't you ever want to know, like, how to be a better advocate? Like you see all these things going on around you that are obviously need to be changed in the criminal justice system. But what strikes you as like how can you be an advocate? Like what is it that you can do that can make change happen? And I think some of it is in the work you do, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go.
Starting in the work field that I'm in, that's what basically spawned the idea of me wanting to be an advocate for people my age, for the youth. Because before that, it was I just had a voice that I just used freely. But now it's like I'm putting my voice towards something, especially something that's impacted my personal life for years prior to me even becoming an adult. I've been impacted by the justice system as old as like what, 4 years old, maybe younger. So when it comes to that, I just take my personal experience and I just try to empathize with those who are also impacted, who are currently in those situations, who just got out of those situations, or who know someone that they love and care for who are in that situation as well.
Yeah, so Maria, you got him now. So you got him here, sitting here. He's got his network of friends out there in the Philadelphia community and in the area. What advice would you give them that they're looking to find a way to have their voice heard, to be advocates? What's the best way for them to go about to kind of get involved and start doing some of that?
So I really appreciate the question. And the first thing I want to say is actually not a piece of advice. It's just a statement, which is you're already doing it. I mean, you are on this show, you are doing murals, you are talking to people, you are clearly speaking about this in all kinds of spaces. I can tell that you're talking about it in personal spaces and professional spaces. And so something that's really important for me to always get across to people is that whatever you can do is valuable. And what you're already doing is valuable. And I don't want anybody to feel less than, because having one conversation with one person, even if it's your mom, your brother, your sister, a coworker, to speak up in a professional or personal space. And when, somebody says something or leaves something hanging, and then you speak up and say, hey, one of my best friends did 26 and a half years. Like, I'm not down with that. Or whatever it is, there are people too, whatever the thing is, or even just to share your story. I've been justice impacted since I was 4 years old. I mean, that stopped my heart when you said that. I want to know what that means. I want to know what that means to you. My heart went out to you when you said that. And so, that created something between us where now there's like this energy where I want to learn more. And that's also the power of, speaking with your authentic voice and storytelling. So that's the first thing, is that what you're doing is powerful. What anybody listening, anything that you're doing is powerful and valuable, even if it's just one conversation. Do not underestimate that. That is what culture change, how it happens. And then the other thing I tell folks is, not everybody feels this way, but there are a lot of folks out there who feel like, there's people in power running it. I can never be part of that. Or like a different version of that is, there's some like group of adults somewhere running things. And what I always try to disabuse people of is like, that's not accurate. Anyone listening can roll up their sleeves, get involved in any issue of their choice at all. I hope it's ours, but it could be any issue. And you will be able to be impactful because, although yes, there are people making policies and decisions, we still have, the ability as people living here to become involved. And I've seen it be so powerful. And so there's a whole spectrum of ways to get involved. I can get into those. But there are, literally a million ways for people to get involved, from legislative advocacy to those personal conversations to just sitting behind your computer and writing to your lawmakers. We can, facilitate you doing that in like 2 clicks. Very easy. Attending meetings, showing up for rallies. There is such a selection that at this point in 2023, technologically, people can choose what they're comfortable with, and then you start to grow and find your voice. You get more comfortable and you're like, hey, I think I could handle, going to meet with my lawmaker training. And I think I can handle calling my lawmaker and leaving a voicemail when the office is closed about my position. And then I think I can handle asking to make a one-on-one appointment with my lawmaker. You know what I mean? So it's like you can build up. And also, if you never want to build up and just do what you're doing, there's so much that you can do. So I can delve into, any of those threads.
Yeah, then there's so much there too, also to unpack. But I do believe that those closest to the problem are often closest to the solution. And if we can engage with people that are justice involved or that have had some challenges in life, no matter what they are, that you wear a different pair of glasses. Like you wear a pair of glasses like me, they have like these tiers of lenses in them. You know, I have part of justice impact in me. I have part of, I used to be a trial lawyer, so I have that lawyer lens that I wear. I have the lens of being homeless in North Philadelphia. I have a lens as an educator now, and as a and you have a lens as a radio show host, so or co-host. So I think we all wear these different lenses in life that we bring with us. But I don't think any one is any more important than the other. And oftentimes people come home, they don't think they have a voice, and that's just wrong. I think legislators, they want to hear the stories about what happened when you're away. They want to hear the stories of, what happened that got you involved in the justice system. They want to hear that because it becomes real for them. And I want to just talk about this a second because, advocacy to me is about storytelling. Like the more stories you can tell about, about the injustices that occur, then at least you have a better chance of somebody having that aha moment to say, you know what, you're right. That doesn't make any sense. We need to change that. We need to fix it. And I think that's what really advocacy is. Finding those stories and getting those stories out there and the work that you do, and it could be big or small. It could be anything. Talking to your neighbor, as you said, Maria, just anything that really gets you going. From a structured standpoint, though, does FAM have a place where you can register as like a volunteer, or do they have online campaigns? Like, how does that work if you wanted to get involved with FAM?
Absolutely. So there's a couple things you can do. I'll put a link in where people can input their information. If you go to visitaprison.org and you take the action that's right there, there's a big banner that says write to your lawmakers, ask them to visit a prison, which is not that heavy an ask, right? Like you're not even asking them to do anything, to vote on anything. You're just saying visit the thing, the $3 billion corrections facilities in Pennsylvania that you oversee. That will give us your information, and then we'll add you to our email list. So you can get to it from visitaprison.org, fam.org. It's right on the homepage. Please visit those websites, sign up for our emails. If you put in, while you're doing that, your physical address in addition to your email, and you're in Pennsylvania, then you're also going to get added to our Pennsylvania list, and you're going to get Pennsylvania specific information. And that's true for other states as well. I just happen to handle Pennsylvania. So I hope all our Pennsylvania people listening to Philly Cam sign up at fam.org. And then you'll get, we have a monthly family call first Thursday of every month from 7 to 8 p.m. We had a fantastic group this past month. We all share why we're there. We really build, that community and solidarity, talk about our priorities, brainstorm, share ideas. It's a phenomenal space. So anyone is welcome.
So I'm going to give you one other one. So if you're in Pennsylvania, I know that they do this in every state. The FAM's active and across the country, but they have some wonderful resources. One is Pennsylvania Second Chance Agenda, which lays out things like in just simple three things that we should be looking at, should be on our radar screen to change. But even more importantly, and I do a lot of public speaking, is the reports that you guys issue. You have one in Pennsylvania for A Time for Justice, which is a need at looking at second chances for Pennsylvania's sentencing system. And it's just so well laid out. And I'm visual. Like everything in my life, I like to see it and touch it. And they have graphs in here and just wonderful things that you can use that just educate people, just get them smarter on the topics. So if you get on their website, check out the Pennsylvania resource tab, because I spent, I thought I was going to just do like an hour just prepping on this. So like 3 hours later, I'm like reading all the studies, I'm reading all the articles you guys have posted. Just a wonderful job in that respect. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I do want to flag one of the people highlighted in that report is my dear friend, Miss Antoinette. Miss Antoinette is a leader in the state. Her son is doing life without parole. Miss Antoinette did not tell anyone that her son was doing a life without parole sentence for 20 years. And through working with FAM and others, not just FAM, doing a lot of her own work, she found her voice to tell her story. And she is now, one of the foremost volunteers that we work with doing advocacy all around the state. but 20 years of silence pretending that her son, was working out of town before we could get to that point. So that is really her story, is what advocacy means to me. And for any of you listening who have someone out of town, please come to us. You don't have to go talk to people yet, but just talk to us. You're not alone.
Yeah, I was. There's so much we could talk on forever, but one statistic to always think about is from Brian Stevenson, that was in some work that he had done, and he came on and said, 2% of the men and women that are incarcerated in this country are going to get exonerated. So I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden I said, wait a second, we have 2 million people incarcerated. That means 20,000 people in our country are sitting behind the walls of prisons and jails and have done nothing at all. They're going to get exonerated. They didn't do the crime. So I think it really is an issue where even I've seen change since I've been home. 7 years I've been home. And the time that I came home, I don't know how receptive legislators really were to the issues. They started nibbling a little bit and getting some interest, but now I think we're starting to get to a different phase in our society, and it's actually being driven in part by COVID and our economy, where now we're starting to realize, wait a second, there's human beings out there that have talent and skill, and the only thing that they have going against them is the fact that they were incarcerated at some point or have a criminal background. And now employers across the country are starting to open their doors a little wider and say, you know what, well, let's see what kind of skill he has. Like, what can he do, or what can she do in the workforce? There's so many components that weave into this, and I know that FAM does a lot of work around sentencing, has really been bridging, and I think it starts there. It starts with inside the justice system and kind of fixing some of those things that I think that need to be fixed. And I really value the work that you're doing here in Pennsylvania, and I was so grateful that you've been here. Again, tell us again, if we wanted to get involved, what's the website or how can they reach you directly?
Absolutely. Go to fam.org. Sign up, FAMM.org. There will be something right there on the homepage, for you to get involved, for you to get our emails. You'll see it right away. So do that. And then to get involved or to reach out to me directly, email fam@fam.org. And I will get those emails, mention Maria, and you will be able to talk to me. I respond to everything. It might take me a couple days, but I will get back to you. And I'm happy to, talk by email or on the phone to anybody that needs me. I am available to anyone listening.
All right, we have about 9 minutes left, 8.5 minutes left, and we're going to take a really quick break. But when we come back, I'm going to give you guys a minute to catch up and think about this. I want to call to action. Like, what is it that you want people out there thinking about or doing when they get done listening or watching this show today? What's that call to action that we want to get out there from FAM and from the Looking Forward Show? And I have mine tucked away. So we'll be right back. This is Looking Forward Show. We are back at the Looking Forward Show, and we're here today with Maria Gellner from FAM, and really excited to have her with us today. So right before we left, I laid a question out there for you guys, the call to action, and we got a few minutes left to talk about this, but what is it that our audience should be leaving with? What's the call to action? Ja, you want to kick us off? What is it you want your friends and your colleagues in Philadelphia to know, to understand about being an advocate, and especially in the justice space?
Well, first things first, being an advocate, especially in the justice system, know what you're doing first and foremost. Don't go into this thinking you're the best of the best or that nothing can beat you, because the justice system was made and designed to beat you personally. It wasn't made to beat itself. It was made to beat the people trying to beat it. So know what you're doing, be very educated on what you're doing, and also make sure you have a good team surrounding you. Don't cut corners. Try not to don't sell yourself short, and always stay on top of your A game, because that's how you win. Concentration and focus and dedication is what makes the heart grow fonder. So
I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Maria, what do you got for us? Come on. And I know you got your 10 point list for us, but what is it that you want our audience to know? What's the takeaway today? What is it they should be doing when they get done this show today? Where are they going to?
Absolutely. I loved what you just had to say, by the way. That was amazing.
Thank
So
you,
I'm going to remember that and write that down so that I see it every day. I think what I want to say is two things. One, you don't need to be as intimidated as you probably feel, right? So I was a trial attorney for 10 years. People are afraid of attorneys. People are afraid of doctors. People are afraid of lawmakers, think that they hold this power, think that they're smarter, think that they're automatically out to get them, which sometimes is true. But they are just people. They are just people, just like the 36,000 people behind bars in Pennsylvania state prisons today are people. We are all just people. They are approachable. You have the right to approach them. So just take a deep breath, reach out to us if you need training, support. You want to know how to tell your story more persuasively. We have storytelling workshops. You want to know how to meet with a lawmaker. We'll teach you how to meet with a lawmaker. You want to know how to write an article and never talk to a live human being. We'll teach you how to do that. But you have the right and power and agency as a human being living here to do that. And please believe me when I say that. At a more tangible level, we have a ton of brand new lawmakers, so many, over 60 coming into the legislature who are brand new. So please consider asking them just to visit a prison and meet with incarcerated people. That's it. That's all I want them to do right now. Easy. They should all do that. And they're not all doing that. So please go to visitaprison.org, couple clicks to tell the lawmakers in your jurisdiction who represent you to please just visit a prison, and I will set it up for them from A to Z. They will literally just have to show up.
I love it. And to reach you, Maria, it's www.fam.org, right?
Yes. And the email directly is fam@fam.org.
Fam@fam.org. I love it. So I'll give you mine real quick, is that I believe that change happens in advocacy from the ground up, not from the top down. And I think that if we learned anything from the Black Lives Matter movement is that it takes the ground. It takes the people that are living in our communities to step up and say, we want this to change. And the more that we can get people active and thinking about how that change should happen and getting their voice out there, the top begins to listen. And then when they begin to listen, that's when change starts to happen, because they realize that they're speaking for you. They're in those offices for you. And on your behalf, it was your vote that got them there. So that's a super important thing to remember. We have so much work to do in this space, and justice and education, and getting people smarter to the challenges that are really in our justice system, which unfortunately impact men and women adversely that are Black and brown and indigenous. And we have to do a better job, and we need to be advocates, and it's for all of us. I think there's a lot of FAM is just a remarkable organization, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to work with them over the years and share their successes across the country. And they're just not here in Pennsylvania, throughout the United States. But doing the work that they do is so impactful. But I think it takes more than FAM. It takes us to get out there. It takes people to really step up and say, we need to make this change, and we need to have our voice heard. And that's through the stories and through the advocacy work that you all do. So Maria, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure. We will definitely make sure that people have your link on I'll post it on my website. We'll make sure we post it out. When we post it out, we'll also put the FAM link so you can check it out.
Remember, guys, this is FAM, the organization, not FAMU, the university. Two different types of FAMs.
There you go.
You're welcome.
See, I would never have known that. So, it is
one Google search, and we'll be having a lot of people going to FAMU. And
we don't want that. We want www.fam.org, and that's where you got to go. And again, I think Maria made a really good point too, that we have a lot of new legislators in there right now. Yes. There's a whole new team in there from our governor all the way down, and it really is a good time to strike. It's a time to get in there and say, hey, we've got you in the office, and now here's what we like to see, and share with them the FAM the FAM website. Bring the material, print it out, take it with you. Or reach out to FAM and say, I need some assistance. I'm doing some lobbying, or we have a community event we want to get somebody at, and we want to help the charge. So I love it. All good stuff. So Maria, thank you so much. www.fam.org it's been great having you. Please give my regards to the FAM family and everyone there, and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of today. And Ja, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
today.
Make sure to follow the Instagram king_.ja for more updates on my life and the show as well. And long live the people.
There you
Thank
go.
you both so much. It's been great. Thank you.
We love it. So you've been watching and listening to the Looking Forward Show, and we're going to see you in a few weeks with our next show coming up. But I want everybody to be safe and stay well out there. It's the Looking Forward Show. I'm Jeff Abramowitz, Ja King.
I'm Ja.
Take care, everybody.
You've been watching or listening to the Looking Forward Show with Jeffrey Abramowitz. You can listen to us on PhillyCam Radio at WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM or PhillyCam TV. We're live streamed at Xfinity 66 and 966, Fios TV 29 and 30, Roku, Apple TV, Facebook, or check us out on our YouTube, The Looking Forward Show channel. If you need to reach The Looking Forward Show, you can reach us at lookingforwardshow@gmail.com.